Let's talk about the latest push from the European Union to ramp up censorship regulations in the name of fighting so-called disinformation. This is GBN Originals. I'm Patrick Christys. Don't forget to subscribe to the GB News YouTube channel and hit that notification bell. Frankly, what's happening in Brussels right now isn't just some bureaucratic shuffle. It's a fundamental battle over who gets to decide what's true, what's allowed, and ultimately who gets to speak online. The EU, led by figures like Oliver Rupke, president of the European Economic and Social Committee, is doubling down on its crusade against what it labels disinformation. They're not just talking about Russian bots or dodgy memes. No, this is about giving themselves sweeping new powers to regulate what you see, say, and share on the internet. And they're using the Digital Services Act, DSA for short, as their weapon of choice. Now, Rupke and his colleagues claim this is all about protecting democracy. How many times have we heard that? They say foreign actors, and crucially domestic ones too, are spreading coordinated misinformation campaigns, targeting vulnerable groups and eroding trust in democratic institutions. Sounds serious, doesn't it? But here's the rub. Their solution is anything but democratic. They want more regulation, more oversight, and more power to decide what's true and what's dangerous. And they want big tech to be their enforcers. Let's be really clear about this. The DSA isn't just about taking down a few fake news stories. As of July the 1st, 2025, the voluntary code of practice on disinformation becomes a legally binding part of the DSA. I mean, can you see a contradiction in terms there? I certainly can. That means that platforms like Facebook, X, YouTube, Google, and TikTok will be audited and held to account for how they handled so-called disinformation. Now, if they don't comply, what happens? Massive fines. Yep, you guessed it. This is being sold as a way to ensure structured debate and free debate based on facts and well-informed actors. But who gets to decide what's a fact? Who decides who is well-informed? Well, I'll tell you who. Unelected bureaucrats in Brussels, backed up by a handful of tech giants desperate to stay on the right side of the regulators. Rupke insists it's not about censoring opinions. Pull the other one, mate. If you're setting the rules for what's allowed, if you're threatening platforms with huge fines unless they toe the line, if you're demanding that AI tools be programmed to reflect your values and yours alone, what else is it but censorship? And don't think this is just about foreign meddling. No, the EU's own environment ministers are now blaming online misinformation for everything from climate policy pushback to public panic over blackouts. Well, sorry, they had every right to be panicked over the blackouts. The traffic lights went out, you couldn't get anything at the shops, the train stopped working. It was quite scary. Poland's environment minister, Paulina Henning-Kloska, said there's been a surge in targeted disinformation used for political purposes, very often by our political adversaries. Okay, so their answer? More tools, more regulation, more power for the European Commission to police online speech. Let's just pause for a second, shall we? This isn't just about stamping out these Russian trolls or stopping deep fake videos. This is about governments and supranational bodies deciding what's acceptable to say about energy, climate, gender, migration, you name it, the whole shebang. If you challenge their consensus, if you dare to ask those awkward questions, if you refuse to parrot the party line, you could be branded a threat to democracy. And once that happens, well, you're fair game for censorship, aren't you? And it doesn't stop with disinformation. The EU is rolling out its AI Act, another sweeping piece of legislation that will regulate artificial intelligence across the bloc. So from February 2025, certain AI systems, anything deemed manipulative or deceptive or whatever, so they've been banned outright. They're banned. By August, new rules for general purpose AI models like ChatGPT come into force. What's their stated aim? To ensure AI serves ethical, not merely commercial goals. But again, who decides these ethics? It wasn't so long ago that you weren't allowed to call illegal migrants illegal. In fact, some people still don't want you to. They should be called irregular or dreamers if you're in the Democrats' Party in America. Who draws the line between helpful and harmful AI? Let's not kid ourselves. These rules will be interpreted and enforced by the same people who think that misinformation simply means you disagree with their policies. If your AI tool helps people question climate orthodoxy or exposes flaws in government policy or, heaven forbid, lets ordinary citizens organise against the establishment, how long before it's labelled dangerous and they just shut it down? And here's the kicker. Ropke, our old mate, wants Europe to build its own digital giants tech companies that are aligned with European regulatory priorities. You couldn't make this up, could you? In other words, he doesn't just want to regulate big tech. He wants to create state-approved alternatives that will bake censorship and approve facts into their very DNA. Sorry, but this is just hardcore socialism, isn't it? We look at something that's working, an independent private company, and what do we have to do? Essentially, nationalise it and bring it under state control. It's mental. This is the real threat to democracy. Not a few dodgy Facebook pages run out of St. Petersburg, not some bloke in his bedroom posting memes. The real danger is a system where unelected officials, backed by tech oligarchs, get to decide what's true, what's allowed, and what's forbidden, where the price of speaking your mind is being silenced, demonetised, or deplatformed. I've said it before, I'll say it again, free speech is the cornerstone of any free society, and without it, we can't hold power to account, we can't challenge bad ideas, we can't defend the vulnerable, or expose corruption. And yet, across Europe and, yes, here in Britain too, sadly, we're seeing a relentless march towards censorship, all dressed up in the language of safety, ethics, democracy. Just look at what's happening in the UK. People are being arrested for so-called offensive messages or jokes, for private conversations, even if, by the way, they go on record and apologise for them afterwards. We're told it's about protecting the vulnerable, but in reality, it's about scaring the rest of us into silence. And the message is clear. Step out of line, challenge the consensus, and you could be next. Oh, and by the way, how do you like 2.5 years in prison, unable to see your wife and kids? So, what do we do? Well, first, I think we need to call this what it is, a gratuitous power grab. The EU censorship regime isn't about defending democracy, it's about controlling the narrative. It's about making sure dissent is marginalised, debate is sanitised, and the public is spoon-fed only what the authorities want us to hear. Secondly, we need to demand transparency and accountability. If platforms are being forced to police speech, we need to know how those decisions are being made, who's making them, and what standards they're using, and whether or not we can overturn them if we want to. No more shadowy fact-checkers or anonymous trust and safety teams. If you're going to silence people, you better be prepared to justify it in public with evidence. Thirdly, we need to defend the principle that more speech, not less, is the answer to bad ideas. If someone's wrong, well, just debate them. Tell them, you might disagree with this. Fine, great. Have that debate, have that discussion. Maybe you'll change my mind. I don't think you will, but you can have a go. If someone's lying, then expose them. But don't hand over the power to decide what's true to a handful of bureaucrats and tech CEOs. And finally, we need courage. We need lots and lots of courage. Because make no mistake, the drive for censorship is only going to get stronger. The people pushing it are well organised, they're well funded. They're literally the governments in some cases. They are certainly utterly convinced of their own righteousness. They won't stop unless we make them. So I'll leave you with this. Do you want to live in a society where truth is decided by committee, where debate is policed by algorithms, and where dissent is a crime? Or do you want to live in a society where people are free to speak, to challenge, free to be wrong, free to offend, and free to be heard? Well, the choice is ours. But if we don't stand up now, well, we may not get another chance. I'm Patrick Christys. This is GBN Originals. Please don't forget to subscribe to the GB News YouTube channel. Hey, and let's keep the debate alive while we still can.